Hi, my name is Garmeet Singh. Today I am covering some of the concepts of economics. So, first topic I want to start with is opportunity cost. As we know that we don't have unlimited resources, we all have limited resources. Economics is based on this thing that we have limited resources and we have to utilize those resources for producing maximum. So, opportunity cost. What is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is a cost which we have to lose to get something. It's the best alternative we lose to get something. Like, for example, if we have two things to produce, like first is wheat and second thing is rice. So, if we choose to produce wheat on the place of rice, then the best alternative, second alternative we lose is rice. So, rice will be our opportunity cost, which we lose to produce wheat. Now I'm talking about factors of production. So there are four factors of production, that is land, labor, capital and entrepreneur. I want to explain this with an example. For example, we are producing apple pies. So we require four things. First is land, where we can set up our factory. Labor, we require the people who can put their time and efforts to produce something. We require capital. That's the third factor of production. We require capital. Uh, Capital includes like things like money, equipments, tools, machineries. These are all we require to produce something. And the fourth factor of production is entrepreneur. He is the person who brings the idea of business. He plans everything for the business. Now I'm talking about PPC, that is production possibility curve. Production possibility curve tells us that how we can produce, like how much quantity we can produce for each of the item. So I'm gonna explain it through an example. I'm taking an example of guns and butter. Uh, Here other things remains constant. We think that we assume that there are only two goods we can produce, that is gun and butter. So if we produce all of the guns, if we in as we all know, we have limited resources, we don't have unlimited resources. So if we invest all of our resources in producing guns, so we can produce zero of butter. And on the other side, if we produce all of the butter, we can produce zero of guns if we invest all the resources in butter. Okay, so now I am making the curve on the whiteboard to explain it in deep. Yeah, so I'm making a curve on my whiteboard. Okay. So it is actually downward sloping. So why it is downward sloping? It is because of, if we produce more and more of guns, then we will be able to produce less and less of butter, and vice versa. Because of this fact, it's downward sloping, or we can say inversely sloping. So the factors inside this curve, like this point, is attainable. All that sources on the curve is also attainable, but the points which are outside the curve, they are unattainable. That means we can't produce that much level of amount. Now I will explain two of the properties of PPC, production possibility curve. So production possibility curve is downward sloping, as I already told. It is because of the inverse relation between gun and butter. If we produce more of gun, we can produce less of butter. Second property of it is concave in nature, concave to the origin. So why it is concave to origin is because of uh, if we produce more and more of butter and sacrifice that of gun, so on each unit we gain on butter, we have to sacrifice more and more of gun. For example, in the first step we gain one of butter and lose two of guns. In the next step again we get one of butter, but this time we have to sacrifice more. We have to sacrifice four guns. So that means it has increasing opportunity cost. On each step we gain one thing, we have to sacrifice more and more of other. So that's the reason behind its concave to nature. Now I am talking about law of demand. So what does law of demand says? Law of demand says that if the price of a like any particular product increase, then its quantity demand will decrease. And if the price goes down, the quantity demanded will increase. So this is the law of demand says. There's a difference between demand and quantity demand. Demand is change in the demand. The change in demand is due to other factors than the price, like substitution effect, complementary goods, or we can say income effect. A lot of different factors other than price. The change in demand is due to other factors than price, whereas change in quantity demand is due to price factor. If there is increase or decrease in price, then the quantity demand will change. Now I'm gonna draw a curve and a schedule for demand, and I will explain law of demand over there. So I'll draw the schedule first. Let's suppose we are talking about oranges. So I'll say P to price and quantity demand, I say QD. I am preparing a schedule, demand schedule. So if the price was earlier $1 for orange, its demand was, let's say, 10 units. And when the price increased to 2, its demand will reduce to 8. Here we are assuming that the other factors are constant, only price is changing. So quantity demand changes only because of price. If the price goes to 3, the quantity demand will come to 6. So here we can see clearly, if the price is increasing, the quantity demand is decreasing. Where earlier the price was less, people were demanding more, and when price keeps on increasing, that quantity demand keeps on decreasing. And now I'll prepare a demand schedule. So here we go. This is what I'm making a demand schedule. Oh, this is demand curve. So as there was an inverse relation between price and quantity demanded, so the curve will be downward sloping, or we can say negatively sloped. This is like this. This is demand curve. It is downward because of the inverse relation between the price and quantity demanded, where other factor remains the constant. Now I will talk more about law of demand. I will talk about substitution effect and law of demand. Substitute is what we can use in the place of one thing. We can interchangeably use it. So I will explain it through an curve. This is demand curve, which is downward sloping, and for example, earlier the price was $5 and we were demanding 10 units of, let's say, oranges. When the price decreases to 4, then we increase the quantity demanded. And the quantity demanded increases to 15, let's say. So here, substitution effects explain the law of demand. When the price was higher, we were demanding less. The quantity demand was less. And the price decreases, the quantity demand increases. This is because of when the price decreases, our purchasing power increase. And when our purchasing power increase, we can purchase more of that product. Even we can purchase something else in the place of it. So substitution effects itself explains the law of demand. Now I will talk about price of related goods and demand. Change in demand is due to other factors than price. So now I am talking about related goods. There are two types of related goods: substitute goods and complementary goods. Here I want to explain with an example. For example, we have Coke. So in its substitute we can use Pepsi. This is substitute good. And if I talk about complementary good, we can take an example of, like, if we have purchased an ebook, so for reading that we require a Kindle, or like we can say we require an iPad. Complementary good is where we require, which complementary good is necessity. Without that we can't use the primary good, where substitutes can be used in the place of each other. So these are all the factors which are other than prices, which affects the demand. So I'm gonna explain it through a curve. I'll again draw a demand curve. This is a demand curve which is downward sloping, or we can say inversely sloping. When there is a change in the quantity demanded, it is due to price. At that time, the curve will move on the curve. And in the case of other factors than price, the curve will shift, maybe rightward shift or leftward shift. For example, I'll take an example. I'll repeat my example. We took an example of Pepsi and Coke. So if we are consuming Coke, we are talking about Coke. If the price of Pepsi goes up, we will increase the demand of Coke. That is because of because it's a substitute good, we can use any one of this. So if the price of the other good increase, we can use our product, that is Coke. And if I talk about complementary goods, in that case, take example of iPad and ebook. If the price of iPad increase, then the demand of ebook will reduce. If the price of iPad decrease, the demand for ebook will increase. This is because these can be used together. If I know the word, I have to use iPad along with, if I want to read ebook, I need an iPad. So I know iPad price is high, So definitely I will gonna reduce the demand for ebooks. So this is all about complementary goods. In the case where price of iPad decrease, I will increase the demand of ebook, and the demand curve will shift to rightward shift. I can show these shifts on a curve, rightward shifts and leftward shifts on a whiteboard. So this is the demand curve again. If the demand increases due to other factor than price, then it will shift to the right side. This is a rightward shift, and the demand decreases, and if demand decreases due to other factor than price, it will shift to left side. Demand curve will shift to the left side. So this is all about shifts in the demand curve due to other factors than price. Now I will talk about future expected price and demand. It is a factor other than price which changes in demand. So here I will take an example of gold. If I know the future expected price of gold will increase, so definitely I will gonna purchase more and more of gold today, because I know in future it will be more costlier, and if I buy it now I can sell it for expensive rates in future. And on the other hand, if the price of gold will decrease in future, if I know about that, then definitely I will gonna purchase less today, because I know if I purchase it for expensive rate today, in future I will have losses. Rather I will buy it in future where I can purchase in at lower amount. So this is all about future expected price and demand. Now I will talk about three other factors that are income, population and preferences, which affects the demand. These are factors other than price. So first I will talk about income. So if the income of a person increase, his purchasing power will increase. He will gonna demand more of a product. On the other side, if the income of a person decrease, his purchasing power will decrease, and he will not be able to demand more. So this is the effect of income on demand. Second thing I want to talk about is population. If the population of a country increase, then more and more people will demand for the product, so demand will increase. And on the other hand, if the population decrease, less people will demand and demand will decrease. And the third factor I want to talk about is preferences. If there is a favorable, I will take an example of orange. If there is a favorable preference of orange, then its demand will increase. Whereas people don't like to eat orange, there is a unfavorable preference of orange, the demand will decrease. All in all, I want to conclude that if there is change in demand due to other factors than price, then the demand curve will shift either in right side or the left side. And if there is change in quantity demand due to price factor, then the curve will not shift, the points will move on the curve. So this is all about law of demand, in which I explained price factor and quantity demand and other factors and demand. Thank you.